you focus on what you're doing. If you need help, give me a call.
Okay, thanks a lot.
I think we should turn on the mic.
You're welcome. I'll monitor it
Turn on
from
the
here,
mic.
and I'll call, I'll
Yeah.
text Marlene. Can you ask Marlene to leave her cell phone open?
Okay,
I'll text her just to keep her updated of what's going on.
all right. Okay, all set. Hi, everybody. Once again, webcast question. This one's from Chris in Nashville. And if you don't mind me reading, hope there's no glare in the glasses, but anyway. Would you review the steps in the exercise about checking the energy internally and blending it with an external perception? Chris, the easy way to do it is try and practice when you're entirely alone. Then try to be aware inside as if you're not going to focus on anything at all. Just aware of what's inside the body, all the way through. Now, you have to realize that by now you know roughly where those chakras are, or zephyr are, or fireballs are. So you'll notice an increase of pressure inside, or actually an intensity building inside in a particular center, or you might notice 3 or 4 or 5. In fact, when you're noticing these things, just notice them, that's all. Try not to make up any dialogue within yourself, just in the exercise that you're engaging with as far as other people is, all you're doing is looking, watching, noting. This takes a little practice. And initially, as your question continues, you say, I found that when I do the exercise during the weekend, I was having a challenging time. There didn't seem to be a boundary between the two, internal, external, and I may have become frightened by that. In fact, you're not used to being in that level of perception. In other words, perceiving inside and out at the same time. You're normally used to engaging with the external world and relating directly to your head, or your engagement with how the other person is from your perspective. Now, what I'm asking you to do is to quiet that down. I'm asking you to be aware inside. And while you're doing that, just take, for example, if you're in a room like this one, you would take thirds of the room. You'd look over here. You don't have to remember. You will remember. You don't have to remember what you're looking at. Just notice what's there. But at the same time, try to pull your noticing to an emptiness inside. Then change and move across the room. Spend a minute or so trying to be aware. You'll catch the fact that you're aware externally quickly. And then you'll try and pull back that awareness to the inside, and you will have missed the outside. You pull back from the outside because you're used to being aware at one level only all the time. Now, if you can understand relating to a meditative state, partially I'm trying to duplicate that with your eyes open. Because when you meditate, you'll pull yourself to the inside. Close your eyes, and you pull down the curtain, and you're all alone in there. And well, if you're listening to music, there's something on the periphery, but eventually, because you're focused on the inside, you may move towards slipping into a kind of alpha state that's a little deeper than what you're normally used to in the beta world, this particular engagement with life. So what you can do there is attempt to pull yourself to the external world again. Now, if you go a little deeper in the alpha, it's going to be a little bit harder because your focus is on the music, it's calming you down. And your focus is on the inside, and you're trying to let go of what's around you and what you'd be normally thinking about. So, in fact, in those circumstances, you could practice with a mantra, your choice. Simple thing, if you want to be calmer, you can just say Om, calm, hum. When you do Om, you focus above your head. Om, and you're kind of humming. And bring the humming to the top of the head. And when you're doing calm, you're bringing that to your body. Then when you say hum, you're humming. It's when you go hum and you're focusing here at the chest, suddenly you're aware that you are literally vibrating in the chest area and off the body. So you can do these things to keep you kind of attentive in your meditations. When you're trying to do this exercise, though, you can focus on the inside, and what's going to keep you attentive is the recognition that you're focused externally in your body. So you pick another, we're 1, 2, now the third little number of degrees, 15 degrees or so, and you're checking what's there. But then while you're checking, move inside and try to maintain your focus on the outside, and you'll have a response in there. If you truly do the both at the same time, something you're not used to, you'll bring to bear all the nervousness or fears that you engage with when you're engaging with literally circumstances that are different for you, whatever that is. Some people will say, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to do this. This is silly. What's the sense of doing this kind of thing? And besides, I meditate, blah, 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 blah. Whatever you come up with will be the thing that will nurture sameness in you. And that's S-A-M, not S-A-N. So, sameness. And that will mean that you're really monitoring how uncomfortable you feel. If you're a person who already feels they know everything, which is rare, not that rare, you will nurture a kind of vulnerability. So you'll bring out all the guns about being able to do your version of this or that or the other thing, because you can't deal with that business, the awkwardness of being vulnerable under those circumstances. This is normal, this is natural, and to soften that down, you can then give yourself a directive. Simple, easy directive is easy does it now. Remind yourself of what you're trying to do. And it's practicing. It's not getting it to the point where you're perfect. It's practicing. And then continue to practice. All you're doing is practicing, nothing else. You're not doing it to be valuable, important, extra special, blah, blah, blah. All that sort of personality stuff. All you're doing is practicing, attending to two places at the same time until they become one. Then when you're engaging on the street from time to time, you will notice a kind of definite glow or pressure or sense of flow in your body in certain places as you pass people or as you meet people. You will know that that center in them is on. You will not know to the degree that it's on. Now, under some circumstances, and often many circumstances, it will be on differently than what you're normally used to in you. Therefore, you will notice differences. Now, based on that, you have a categorization of what is strong and what's weak. And so automatically, you will decide how strong something is, how weak something is. But you've never met a person who could be identical like you in a nanosecond. Or a person who's able to handle frequency on many different levels and many different frequencies. And you may not notice anything in them. Because they will be exactly you. They'll be mirroring you, as if they are not in any way showing you them. And you will say things like, there's not much there, it's only this, it's only that. Nothing is really going on there, I can't perceive anything. It's because they're able to functionally be invisible to you. And this is a very powerful ingredient to higher levels of consciousness. Unless they are doing something for the benefit of you, they will be in alignment with a balance that you will not be able to perceive. So don't consider this extra special even when you get it. This is a mode, a movement towards becoming more perceptive. a movement towards becoming more perceptive. This is not the final enchilada. You have no control over this. There's no engagement with this. There is no purpose in it except for the personality figuring out where those chakras are in most people. And you will meet those who do not have or are adept enough not to show you where they are because it serves no purpose. They already know how to do that. And they're not out to help you think that they're extra special. They're just there trying to be helpful. And so they'll shift something in you slightly so that you can engage because of their frequency and their modeling of that structure of help or service. They will help you just a slight little bit so that you can quickly get used to it. And then slowly, ever so slowly, you broaden out your capacity to perceive. But you play a role in this. You have a partial role to play, and that partial role to play is not insignificant. It's valuable. So you learn then how to calm you down when you're in that place of relationship with trying to be quiet internally so that you can perceive energy flowing through you, from you, or through you, or from another. And you do this with great respect to others and great respect to yourself. Suddenly you become at least slightly aware of the fact that you could be watching you and watching what's going on inside and out as if you were outside watching you. And you are beginning then to cultivate a place within yourself where you do not assess or judge anybody because it's not relevant. You're just perceiving what you can perceive. That's all you're perceiving. And you begin to know you are not perceiving everything, but you are in a movement. It's a process, in a movement towards becoming subtly more aware than you are currently about what is there, not about what isn't there. That relates directly to Mary's question about, do you have to engage literally through time with every single piece, iota of material that you were engaged with as you grew up? You don't have to do that. What happens automatically is you are engaging daily with all of that stuff. As you move towards a slight bit more of perception, the perception itself that you have, be it unconscious or conscious, be it unconscious or conscious, will show up to show you something. It's attempting to mimic a being who can watch within themselves. Because that's what you're trying to do. It's not there to judge anything, it's there to help you perceive. Now, often that's an aspect of a soul level consciousness or a different level of consciousness because you don't necessarily engage with others in whatever way you do, and then consider everything that you've done in the moment and wonder where it came. Oh, that came because I was like that at 13, or that came when I was like that at 15. You don't have to do that. It's there. It is constructed. There's form there. You have cultivated form, physical, kind of, but still etheric, and unconscious, to follow a reflex that will help you, supposedly. Not necessarily does it help you, but supposedly it helps you. And you follow that line, emotionally, mentally, even thinking has that process. And even physically sometimes. You respond physically because the emotion and the body are tied together really strongly. However, there are other aspects of existence that tie to the body, the emotion, and the mind as well. Just saying that isn't enough. As you move forward into an understanding through experience, and it's the only way you can understand it, then all of a sudden you begin to understand differently, and you gauge what you are engaging with. In other words, understanding how you're assessing things, and you realize that reflexively you always have an opinion about everything, and it will be validated either by your learning processes, your experiential processes, or a kind of an insight that is completely out of sync with those two places. However, before this can happen, you have to be okay with playing out some of the stuff that you naturally and normally do, and getting to the point where you can say, this, even though I thought it was effective, I am perceiving it is not as effective as I thought it was previously, 1 second ago, before you noticed. That's an intuition. That's a different level of watching or perceiving that is there subtly in us all, and we normally see that as other people are engaging with life. We don't normally see it so clearly as we are engaging. The biggest dilemma of that added increased perception is the relationship that you have with yourself. All of us are vulnerable in various places. We exaggerate vulnerability, strange thing to say out loud, by being overly clear about how right we are. There is an aspect in all of us that can perceive that as it's expressing itself, but it takes practice. You will notice that inside while you're paying attention outside, because there is a space there through which you can observe you in action. And in that space, there is no, and I mean no, reaction at all that is negative, and none that's positive. It's just, oh my goodness, I didn't know that happened. I never knew I did that. Now comes the reaction. Horse racing. Oh, faster than any horse I've ever seen run. It moves into play position and is there to protect this rolling, energetic structure that has been developed from the time of your birth to protect you from what? Actually, from being so vulnerable. And the fear gets so strong because if that great form is not there, that you can follow unconsciously and never know you do it, if it's not there, you will surely die or fall apart or not be able to function, all of which is not true. But the process of thinking it was true, you bring energy to that, and you talk yourself into that really fast because you want to talk yourself out of anything that will truly soften down how you function, because you will not be, from your point of view, appreciated as much if you don't have whatever it is that you do, even if you're not appreciated at all. And sometimes when you're truly not appreciated, you ache to remain that way because at least you're arm's length from any appreciation and you can decide whether you accept it or not. That sounds pretty weird, actually. Yeah, sounds pretty normal. However, perceiving it is different. Most of us cannot perceive that very well. So I'm warning you, you will perceive more by doing this exercise. You'll be a little bit nervous because it will interfere with the idea that you should be fully conscious of everything all the time, missing everything. Unconscious, but just perceptive, consciously about what comes out of your mouth, comes out of other people's mouth, actually how they express it. That either validates them or devalues them based on your assessment of how life should be according to the rules and regulations of how you already function. So becoming fearful in this, as she asks, what do I do? about the fear. And why should we be fearful? We are fearful because it implies, when we have that experience of seeing both at the same time, it implies that we are then going to be more cognizant of anything and everything we do. Believe you me, you will not. But you will begin to. And it gives you a perception so that you, the creator of those perceptions and expressions and devaluations and accelerations of your importance, it gives you the opportunity to know that these are not as important as you think they are. And now, living in this world, this counts for something because this relates to your personality. And no one else can actually force you to change anything in your personality. And why should you? You must remain a personality being so that more flow can operate through in the levels of personality, which is where we all need help. Everyone on the planet. In other words, how we engage with each other and how large it forms, like cities and nations and hemispheres engage with other hemispheres, nations and cities. And I'm not even going to mention corporations because there is an interesting rule out there. As long as you win, everything is okay. This is not a rule. This is a makeup. And if you find yourself involved with this rule, you must be the one to break it. Otherwise, you will become a person who doesn't care about you. And if you can't care about you, you can't care about others. The reverse is also true. And that is not helpful. Not helpful at all in relationship to you as an individual. If you consider things on a universal level, a spiritual level, of course, this is what we're talking about. Otherwise, why do I exercise? You might as well just focus on the outside and be the most important person in the universe. By any means, very Machiavellian, and I don't think he was actually as Machiavellian as he wrote about, because he seemed to have a heart. You should read that booklet of his or book of his. It might be interesting to you. And don't read it from the point of view of negativity or being able to do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. Look at it from a different perspective. See that it might be helpful in assessing how you normally are unconsciously inside, because you do not bring your intelligence to how you function necessarily. Sometimes you do. Often it's just plain survival. And he was talking about basic survival structures. It's very valuable and it's been used for purposes related to the old feudal Florence and city-state times. It's interesting history. Okay, is this another opportunity to befriend my subconscious and ask for help in releasing fear and control? Yeah, well, we talked a little bit about that, trying to make friends with it and talk to it like a buddy, like a friend. Make friends with yourself and say, look, I don't agree with this. I don't want to do this. This is not helpful to me. I need to find a different way. The unconscious will try to help you. There's no question about that, and it'll get help from a different level as well. And it says, she says, Chris says, how can one be afraid of something and not even know it? You understand how you can? Because truly, your focus is not on the unconscious, really. Your action engages with the unconscious. Your conscious feeds the unconscious, and you can engage with it kindly and respectfully. It's doing exactly what you've felt was necessary to do to basically survive, and how you've been taught a bit. And you don't have to comply with the teachings that you get. You normally don't comply with teachings anyway, so why should you comply with yours? Well, because yours are the greatest. And remember what we laughed about, only God is great, remember that, whatever that means. Okay, I think, how do we become aware of the subtle triggers and signals within ourselves that cause us to create barriers, keep us from perceiving differently? I kind of touched on that in relationship to being okay with being honest with yourself. With this way of engaging would be okay. Would I want others to engage with me like that? You know, typical stuff that you've learned since you were a kid, and forget instantly when you decide that this is what you want to do, and that's what you want to do. I think one of the biggest things that might be helpful is to realize that you mostly underestimate yourself. And to compensate for that, you overestimate yourself. You underestimate your capacity to be an able person, at least most of us do. And you overestimate the need to act as if you are a terrific person, extra special, this, that, or the other thing. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that is unconscious about you not believing that you're a very able person. And in my opinion, also a spiritual person, a very able person. And there are those who don't want to be like them. And there are those who would like to be at least more honest with themselves in terms of their relationship with life. And that honesty is not following the party line. The honesty is only involved with this one thing. What am I seeing? What's that about? Why do I do that? Often deep down there's a great deal of anger in us, and resentments, and disrespect for us. And we don't notice it. We just act out like a normal child would under those same circumstances. This is not negative. This is just a part of how we attempt to enable ourselves so that we can be noted as at least somewhat significant. I think that's difficult for us, but because we can't see that happening. This little exercise will help you see it, as long as when you get to the point where you feel comfortable doing both and you perceive those chakras or centers a lot easier, you also try to be okay with being okay with you. And you watch those things and not judge them, but say, more correct it. Easy does it now. I know I do this and I do it a lot, but maybe it could soften it down a wee bit. And if you soften it down a wee bit, the unconscious will give it juice so you can see you have more. Now it'll do that for a purpose, because it really kind of wants to know if you really want to adjust that. And you'll find in some circumstances you won't want to adjust it at all. You've made your name by it. So if you adjust it, what happens to your good name? Whatever. What happens often is, I have to warn you about this, people don't notice you as much. Whether it's a negative notice or a positive notice, they don't notice you as much. What they notice is something different, and they wonder about that difference. It won't affect the capacity that you have. In matter of fact, often it gives you more capacity. But it may soften down the nervousness and fear a little bit. Although nervousness and fear will be noted more, so you have to calm yourself down a bit. It's like becoming, if you have tremendous myopic vision, all of a sudden you become 20/20. Whoa, oh, what happened? And you're searching, if you're an artist, you're searching for the blur so that you can paint the blur, which many artists have had. But you're not going to paint the blur anymore. You can remember the blur, but you're not blurred as much anymore. So in your day-to-day painting of the continual engagement with the things that you already have, you may not reconstruct an aspect of your personality that you're uncomfortable with. But you'll have to talk to you about that. In doing this opens the doorway to having more energy flow through you. And now if you're adverse to orange, like some people talk, then it won't matter. There will be other ones, as long as you can handle those frequencies, there will be openings related to those particular shifts, and there will be fusions of energy, literally internally, that will help you to notice things that you couldn't notice before, just because there's a little different frequency in the expression of how you function. Just a little bit different. You'll get yourself into a place where you'll start looking for things that are different than what you used to honor, or what you think other people honor. Because other people don't always honor what you think they honor. So you could say that you can practice enabling yourself differently than you were enabled previously. Because it's still enabling. You're just changing definitions. This is a very valuable thing to do. Might be helpful. Now, Carol, there was another question. Do you remember that question?
It was about when you're trying to read beyond what you first see in a person.
Mm.
I want to know if there's a method of calming your judgment, so that you're more clear in what you see.
Well, in that case, what I would do is
repeat that. I don't know if it.
Yeah. What would you do? You'd better repeat it yourself. Just stand up and repeat it if you can.
Well, I was wondering, what method can one use to still the judgment that one has when one reads a person
or thinks they know what a person's
exactly,
like.
Exactly, and just calm it down so that
Yeah.
you're trying to go beyond that initial.
Okay. All right. If you do this exercise and allow yourself to open up to having ideas different than the ones that you already have, this is very difficult for most people. Extremely difficult. Because they indent, put quotation marks around the whole paragraph that they believe is true. And there's defenses around this. But if you're really attempting to understand and really interested in this, you can use energy on those phrases that you come up with. Inside, you'll notice there's an intensity. It's quite strong when you decide some of these things. Obviously not always positive. But positive ones can really be hard to uncover as well. People can be very positive about a person, and a person's not going to be that kind of positive for them, but they believe they are, and because people are different. Anybody ever put on a mask in front of a person and then walked away and was completely different? Because these people pull for these masks. They have one on themselves. You have one on. Someone else has one on. You talk to the masks and then you leave. You never know who the real person is. Fair enough. And the real person isn't fully negative, isn't fully perfect. There's a whole mix of gray in there. So if you begin to be more aware internally in yourself, you may notice something in you. If you've, let's say, been judgmental about this person, you may notice they have a part of their brow on, part of their throat center on, part of their heart center on, something at the top of the head, still with the lower ones on. And you may say, whoa, just a minute now. I noticed that aspect of them on. That means in them there is a flow that moves through a higher level than what is normal in our world currently. That might give you pause, not necessarily to throw out everything that you've decided is real, but give you pause. And in fact, you might say something simple. You're talking to that flow inside of you. Give me a hand with this. You need to try and understand what's going on here. I'm having this reaction. This reaction may duplicate another experience that you've had in your lifetime. The person may be similar to bifacial features. They may have characteristics that are obviously similar to someone that you have trouble with or have had trouble with. They may be a little dominant, depending on who you are, and that doesn't go down too well. Or they may sound that way because that's the method that they've used to survive. And you don't know that because you're not perceiving what's going on in them. You're perceiving what's going on in your reaction. So if you slow it down a little bit, you can begin to notice what's on the inside slightly differently than what you've already stated on the outside. So you're trying to find a fusion there, just a little bit of it's just a beginning. And you're not going to be perfect in this because you will have your accoutrements, things that you believe, the criteria that you have for being around a person that you might like, consciously or unconsciously. You could have some consciously and some unconsciously. And you have those reflexes, and then automatically, here you come. You're engaging with your values, how you see you, and how they are interfering with how you see you. They're an interloper on how you are presenting yourself in life. How dare they? That is not real. You know, that kind of thing. I mean, no one in here would ever do that. However, it is a consistency. For example, if you give them 5 minutes to talk and they tell you something, but they won't give you 5 minutes to tell your story, automatically you're upset. Well, not you, but you could be upset because they're not giving you time. And there are rules and regulations around social time, right? No, there are none. But we believe there are. And if psychology has its way, there will be more limits on this. You will have a certain amount of time to speak. And that would be socializing. And you have to learn how to listen then, not eyes glazed over and not giving a darn about what other people are saying. If you were a really healthy person. Well, we don't have that in paper yet, so hopefully we don't have to have that in paper. But nonetheless, who knows? There are all kinds of rules that are changing in our world, and hopefully that's not one of them. Hopefully we can be acting as if we're listening and we're not. But here's a trick. If you're focused on the outside and the inside at the same time, you cannot help listening. You can't. Now you can't help wondering where they're coming from. Not judging it, wondering. Because we're used to judging it. That happens within the first 10, 15 seconds of a person's interaction with somebody. We're really fast. We're so good. Not that good. But we engage and we come up with something and decide where we're going to spend our time. No time is spent finding out how that person really functions and why. Well, we're not psychologically astute necessarily. We can become more because we would want the same thing for us. But we want it first. Oh no, that's another thing. Talking yourself down is valuable. It's clearly valuable because it brings mind into it, not reaction. If you calm your reaction, you can actually pick up various things within the narrative that will help you understand the person. Fair enough? And that would be helpful to you if you listen to you express your narrative. You will pick up things within the narrative that will help you understand you. Not negating you, not elevating you, just knowing you. So that you don't have to, if you have a lot of vulnerability, you don't have to put yourself higher, because if you don't, you are not worth anything. Because it's not real. And people like you whether you're miserable or not. So you don't have to force. You can engage respectfully and honestly, a little bit honorably. And you don't have to make up little tricks that you pull to do this or that. You can, then you'll never know who you are and how capable and bright you are and functional you are. And because you are defining based on the river of and its tributaries that you created from the time of your birth, and how others have told you who you are and why you are, and you've told you buy what people tell you. So you can get rid of some of the tricks. Let them go. It's not worthwhile. It's not helpful because they reconstruct the same river. And if you are a river, you find different ways of engaging. You want more water to come in. You want to engage and understand life and engage with it in a way that is really, truly helpful in understanding more than one person. Well, assuming you understand yourself. And you may not. As a matter of fact, most people don't. So this is it's a really large thing. You can use energy to be helpful. Remember that. You can talk yourself down. Easy does it. Come on now. Easy does it. What's going on here? What's this about? What's that about? And as time goes on and you notice things inside yourself more, you may notice if you've been engaging with a person who's really frustrated with life, you will become frustrated with life. Because you, in a way, you, whoever you are really engaging with them in a kind of a way to perceive an alignment or engage with them frequency-wise. You will move into that state where they cannot perceive you frequency-wise. But you're doing that before anyone has perception. And all of you do that unconsciously. There's preparation going on inside, and you give yourself credit in places where no credit is basically due. But keep doing that, because if you didn't, you'd feel uncomfortable. So you believe the I in the identification process is the most important thing, because that's what we have been trained to do that, and we are still limited in our perceptions. So no disrespect of anybody. It's just part of the process of learning. Is that making some sense? Was there an added thing to that?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, this is a real interesting thing. We've got about 10 minutes left, but when you're dealing with this particular exercise, remember that these exercises that you can use, they come together. You can use them to help in any given circumstance. I once talked to a person who had, in their view, all kinds of perception And I said, well, that's really terrific. How do you use it? Well, not that I use it, I perceive it and I engage with others and tell them. I said, that's really great. Do you use it on yourself? Well, I can't really see myself that well. I said, well, do you ever find yourself a little important because you're using it? And they sheepishly said, well, not while I'm using it, but after. I kind of noticed a couple of times that I thought I was pretty doggone important. I said, that only comes from feeling vulnerable. In other words, if no one believed you and thought you were a little bit weird, find other people who are like that so you won't feel weird, so you don't have to feel important. Because there's no competition in this process. And you'll find that those who are really, really able won't battle with you back. Because they realize that you are young and need that aggressive component to reassure others how important you are. And that is young. And all of us get involved with that from time to time. And that's youthfulness in the process of internal development, universal development. Not negative. You notice I didn't say negative. I said youthfulness. And this is exceedingly difficult to allow to be valid. Because truth is, everybody touches on a little bit of importance from time to time. To seek it out and try to calm it down is counterproductive, counterintuitive, according to the material world. Because if you have it, flaunt it. It's some of these things. Never, ever say that you were sorry or something you could have done differently. I don't agree with that stuff at all, because you never find out that you're so young. You disrespect yourself. Therefore, you disrespect others that don't have the capacity that you have. You will find that they are like you and you are like them. You might be a little bit more advanced than somebody, but you are not the epitome of universal capacity. And you are still learning. But if you get a little tizzy about how important you are and nobody knows how great you are and all the rest of it, that is a dilemma for you. And it is part of the survival system that you have and that you reassert. Reconstructing isn't necessarily of great value. You'd much rather rebuild the same thing over and over again in a different way. Know it. Be okay with it. And then go slowly. Do a little bit at a time and pull back from the need to assert the importance of you. This is counterproductive in our world. Our 21st and 20th century world has been assert, be the one who wins. In spiritual growth, it's a paradox. Be the one who perceives and understands and gives credit to those who can't, because they are learning to grow. What you can do to help them would be helpful. What you do to put them down is not helpful to you. It indents the material plane. It puts you in a little groove, and you just spin in the groove. Pull out of the groove. Do the best you possibly can. Everyone who grows gets the feel of vulnerability when someone is really able. That's why able beings don't go around reporting they're able. They don't want to interfere with that. Unless you're a teacher, and that's most annoying. It's very frustrating where to draw the line. And the line is everywhere. Have to be vigilant all the time. Right. And that is counterproductive to our structural personality world. The one that says, you win, you're great, you don't, you lose. It's the way it works. Fair enough? Christ lost, right? He got nailed to a bunch of bullets. Buddha stuck around with a whole bunch of people that he liked and they liked him. And he tried to help them to grow. So they knew bloody well that he would help them to grow, so they're not going to annihilate him. Krishna, same thing. How about you? George, Jack, Carol, Mary, I don't care who you are. That's the key. Just help the way you can. That's all. Just do it. No one likes to be helped where they believe they don't need it. What a shock. But you may need it because you can't see the inside well. So be aware inside, outside. Do it slowly. Be respectful. No matter what you see, don't care what it is, just doesn't matter. What you do is little at a time, you grow. Do the best you can. And sometimes you can't do anything, and other times you can. Do the best you can when you can. That will help you in more ways than one. You're not the only person trying to help you. Thank you very, very much, whoever is out there listening. I truly understand that you can watch on other nights other than like at 2 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning in the UK, and you can watch it tomorrow or whenever you watch it. And for the rest of you who are in and around and can't watch tonight, I hope you enjoyed it or will enjoy it and somehow